News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Erica Herskowitz. Stocks pushed higher to start the holiday-shortened week on Wall Street. Traders getting ready for the release of a slew of economic data and also appear optimistic that the Fed will cut interest rates next month. The Dow gained 203 points, ahead nearly 0.5%. The Nasdaq rose 599 points, up nearly 2.75%. The S&P added 102 points, closing more than 1.5% higher. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.03%, the 2-year Treasury yield at 3.50%. A phone call between President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping is said to have focused on the future of Taiwan. The Chinese Foreign Ministry reporting Xi pressed Trump on the status of the self-governing island of Taiwan and urged his counterpart to maintain improved ties. Xi told Trump that the return of Taiwan to China is a key part of the post-World War II international order. The Chinese leader also said the two countries should keep the positive momentum generated during their meeting last month in South Korea and expand cooperation. The leaders also spoke about Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and Xi expressed hope for the two sides to reach a binding peace agreement. Trump said Xi invited him to China in April, and he accepted that invitation. A federal judge threw out the charges against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, ruling that the prosecutor who brought the cases had been illegally appointed. The appointment of Lindsay Halligan as interim U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia was unlawful. U.S. District Judge Cameron McGowan Curry said in a ruling today. She dismissed the charges against Comey and James without prejudice, meaning that prosecutors may be able to refile the cases. The Pentagon released a statement saying it would be investigating Democratic Senator Mark Kelly, citing serious allegations against him. Kelly on Sunday urged congressional Republicans to publicly reject Trump's threats against him and 5 other Democratic lawmakers who stated that military personnel are not obligated to follow illegal commands.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
All 6 participants have backgrounds in military or intelligence services. U.S. officials are hailing progress in their efforts to end the war in Ukraine. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says weekend talks in Geneva may have been the most productive so far. He says a Thursday deadline for Ukraine to accept a peace deal with Russia could slip into next week after both countries drafted a revised framework. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is indicating there's more work to be done.
Of course, we all continue working with partners, especially the United States, and look for compromises that strengthen but not weaken us.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky spoke at a summit this morning in Sweden. Bloomberg's Oliver Crook is in Brussels with more on what the Europeans are looking for.
The one thing that the Europeans can do, and they have failed to do to this point, is basically get into those Russian assets. There are 140 billion euros worth of Russian assets that are sitting here in Belgium, sitting in Euroclear. The 27 leaders of the European Union member states have not been able to get on an agreement on how to basically unlock the proceeds from those assets and those assets themselves, a loan against them. And that has been what they've been bickering about for weeks.
Bloomberg's Oliver Crook reports European officials are optimistic that a revised plan no longer includes the U.S. receiving half of any profits from Russia's frozen assets. President Trump's formal designation of Venezuela's Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization goes into effect today, escalating tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela. The U.S. government is accusing the group of being led by Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro himself, and the designation comes amid a U.S. military buildup and operations targeting alleged drug trafficking organizations. A pill version of Novo Nordisk's Ozempic failed to slow the progression of Alzheimer's disease in a pair of high-risk studies that aimed to open a new use for the blockbuster obesity drug. Patients who took the medicine didn't see their disease progress more slowly based on a cognitive assessment. Bloomberg's Naomi Kresge reports it's a big setback for a company looking for more uses for its blockbuster weight loss drug.
Often, in a study like this, pharma will point, if there's a failure, they might point to some subgroup or some small thing in the study that showed some signs of being beneficial, and there really wasn't any language like that in the statement today.
That's Bloomberg's Naomi Kresge. Novo will discontinue a planned one-year extension of the study. The stock plunged as much as 12.5% in Copenhagen this morning, hitting the lowest level since July 2021. And Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups pled not guilty to charges he engaged in rigged high-stakes poker games that prosecutors say have ties to the mafia. Billups was charged along with 30 other defendants in the case, and prosecutors say he and former NBA player Damon Jones acted as face cards to lure wealthy players to poker games. That's news when you want it. With Bloomberg News Now, I'm Erica Herskowitz, and this is Bloomberg.